Good morning, everyone. There we go. Wanted to say good morning and welcome to Mountain Vista UU. It's wonderful and delightful to see you all this morning. I'm excited this morning to play a prelude with Alex.
Welcome to Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation. The tune you've just heard, it's an old Scottish folk tune, Wally Wally or Waly Waly, depending on which side of the ocean you're on. There are many different lyrics offered to this particular tune, but all of them, they speak to intentional kinship made in love. Welcome to our secular faith community, because we are a people and a place and programs in search of many, many, many things that sustain us through these challenging times, things that challenge us to grow and to be more in our relationships. It's a search that we engage and love and transform through together. We come with all of our individual beliefs and experiences, and then we use secular sources like science and reason to dive deep into the waters of life. Waters that can be confusing, frightening, angering, can cause us to despair, as certainly many things in our society have just in the last 24 hours. We come here to discover clarity and renewal, trust and awe, peace and meaning, leading to even deeper revelations about how we can live and move and act with integrity and dignity in our world. This month of Sundays, we are in search of these very values that deepen our congregation's chosen mission of building an open-hearted, welcoming community where we work together in covenant to transform ourselves and our world through love. Or our very quick shorthand version, engage, love, transform. I'm Reverend Matthew, and I am here to grow this mission alongside you. And so I welcome all of you, those here for the very first time, those here as guests just passing through, those who have been longtime members and are wondering, what are we doing this month with all of these weird creatures? Welcome. If you are here in the rumor, or you are joining us as a Zoomer, or later during a recording, we welcome you. Wherever, whoever, whenever you are joining us in our search for kinship. Kinship, as it's named in science, the interrelations of all that ever was, is, or will be. Kinship named in our faith, a shared connection, interdependence, that we intentionally engage with love to transform. And in betwixt and in between, who knows what we might find alive and lurking in the depths to guide us. Whoever, wherever, whenever you are joining us, welcome. And in that spirit, I invite all of those here present in the room to turn to our camera and wave to all of those who are joining us via Zoom, or even those who are watching later. And now, I invite all of you present to rise in body or in spirit and greet one another. And those of you on Zoom, please use your chat. Huh?
It never came to me.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Want me to get up and or you'll just handle it?
I'll have to handle it because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I don't have it on my phone, so. Present and working with passion and care to create our secular faith community are many, many people who offer us their service. From our staff of religious professionals, Chris, our music director and co-curator of our Sunday services. Stacy, our religious educator, who's with our youngest on Sunday mornings, and you can hear them occasionally. And Stephanie, our administrator, who guides us Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to noon, and of course, our newest staff member, Tay, our engagement coordinator, who has helped me to better perceive our secular faith community. Thank you. Thank you. And there are those who make our Sunday mornings possible and dynamic, like Melody, who is also a new board member, but is serving as our pastoral associate for the first time today. Welcome. There's our audio-visual squad, Lee and Alex and Todd and Tom and Harvey, who make it possible for you to hear and to see all that's going on. And of course, our welcomers and hospitality folks who extend our secular faith community from the moment that you arrive to when you leave for the rest of your day. It's with their time and talent that we are kept afloat, that we can gather, that we can plumb the depths together. And so I am grateful for all that they do to help fulfill our mission and purpose. Thank you. The Reverend Howard Thurman, Christian minister whose spiritual activism tied social responsibility to mysticism, guided the leaders of his time, just as he continues to do today. Reverend Thurman wrote, "The awareness that the universe is dynamic. It gives the individual the quiet assurance that wherever they may be located, they are in immediate candidacy for a strength that comes from boundless vitality. This fact makes for a universal kinship among all living things. The blessing of our self-conscious makes possible a deliberate relatedness out of which arise all of the joyous overtones of human relations. And so we gather with a certainty. We are interrelated. We gather with the knowledge that we are here in the homeland of the Otham and the Yaqui people who have and remain the people of this land called Sonoran. And I offer that land acknowledgement as our congregation is currently and deliberately seeking new and a deeper relationship with the indigenous people here in this place and this space that we all call home. That's kinship. The universal interdependence through things like physics and chemistry and biology that make us awake and aware of a conscious and intentional engagement with other human beings, heart to heart. It is good, then, that we have gathered. Let us worship.
Good morning, y'all. This is by Eric Williams. There is light in the beginning. There was light, infinite and expansive, flowing out from an unseen center. Throughout creation, there is light from the steady sun, the glowing moon, the flashing meteor, the twinkling stars, and the auroras dancing in the northern sky. Within each part of creation, there is light, slowed down and held close by every cell and molecule, by each atom and element. Within you, there is light, the same light as the source, the same radiance that is in all creatures. May this small flame be a constant reminder to you of your true nature and your kinship with all beings.
Our opening sacred song is All Creatures of the Earth and Sky. And we'll be singing this particular hymn each Sunday this month. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, and with the words projected, join your voices together. I invite you now to a time of contemplation, of considering and pondering the question, what is it that we are in search of? Back in 1977, and then again in 2002, and then again in 2018, a television series, In Search Of, was on the airwaves and streaming. In the first series, hosted by Leonard Nimoy, which lasted 5 years, that one sought to explore the unsolved and unresolved mysteries of our world. Its 144 episodes covered a wide range, from the Loch Ness Monster to JFK's assassination to the Bermuda Triangle. It was eclectic. Because my family had a black and white television, I really couldn't ever tell the difference between In Search Of and reruns of The Outer Limits and The Twilight Zone. The only distinction that I ever found in Search Of was its opening disclaimer. This series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones to the mysteries we will examine. Now, the next, much shorter run was hosted by Mitch Pileggi, and that didn't bother with the disclaimer. It went right into the unexplained and the outrageously sensational. This version reminded me of the National Enquirer, with headlines like JFK and Elvis are living on the moon with Marilyn Monroe. And the final revival of In Search Of was hosted by Zachary Quinto. This version held a much more experiential approach, with the host actively engaging in several searches into the unknown depths of actual mysteries. Now, it's interesting that two of these actors, Nimoy and Quinto, portrayed Mr. Spock in Star Trek, and it's also interesting that they really didn't highlight their ears in their promotional materials. Mitch Pileggi was well known for his role in the show The X-Files. The presence of these actors was meant to add some credibility of science, even though it was science fiction or pseudoscience, to their storytelling. And why? Why the connection to fictional and pseudosciences? And why the longevity and the revival of In Search Of over time? Well, Michael Shermer, author of Why People Believe Weird Things, and the editor of Skeptic magazine, based on data and observation and reason, offered this theory. Humans are pattern-seeking, storytelling animals, and we are quite adept at telling stories about patterns, whether they exist or not. This is quite possibly one of our evolutionary traits that helped us to survive and to thrive. Human beings searching for patterns and then casting them into narratives of beginnings and middles and endings were ways that we could learn about the world, be safe, be secure. You see, we come into life with absolutely no disclaimer, no certainty about the world, about who we are within it. And so we employ our pattern making, our storytelling, to search for our place, both in the universal and in one another's lives. And when we use our fundamentally human trait in a scientific process with systematic and critical thinking, we shine a light on the world and we gather knowledge. And when we use this trait with our belief and intuition, then we plumb the unsolved mysteries and gather inspiration. And when we combine them, knowledge and inspiration in parallel, our search is about finding and making meaning together, about about finding and making meaning. Everything we do, every thought we've ever had is produced by the human brain, says Neil deGrasse Tyson, astrophysicist, host of Star Talk and Cosmos, and director of the Hayden Planetarium. And he continues, but exactly how the human brain operates remains one of the biggest unsolved mysteries. And it seems the more we probe into its secrets, the more surprises we find. Think of that. In search of the unknown in the world, we're seeking to unravel the mysteries of who we are, of how we relate to one another. We are searching for what we just might become together. Imagine that. By seeking patterns, telling stories, we discover more of what it is to be human, to be better humans. Interrelated, interdependent, we seek the means of becoming our best selves together.
Please join me in a spirit of prayer. This is adapted from the Reverend Howard Thurman. The concern which I lay bare before the divine today is my need to be better. I want to be better than I am in my most ordinary day-by-day contacts with my friends, with my family, with my casual contacts, with my business relations, with my associates in work and play. I want to be better than I am in the responsibilities that are mine. I'm conscious of many petty resentments. I'm conscious of increasing hostility towards certain people. I'm conscious of the effort to be pleasing for effect, not because it is a genuine feeling on my part. I'm conscious of a tendency to shift to other shoulders burdens that are clearly my own. I want to be better in the quality of my religious experience. I want to develop an honest and clear spiritual life. I want to develop a sense of sensitiveness to the movement and flow of all there is in my own life. I want to develop a charitableness toward my fellows that is greater even than my most exaggerated pretensions. I want to be better than I am. I lay bare this need and this desire before all there has been, all that now exists, and all there ever shall be in the quietness of this moment.
Our sacred song, number 410, Surprised by Joy, is our next hymn. It is to the tune of Wally Wally or Whaley Whaley. In our hymnal, it is listed as a wedding hymn. And that's because it's about the intentional relationship, the kinship that two people make when they choose to join in marriage. Please rise in body or in spirit and join your voices together. The words are projected. We gather each week in celebration and comfort. And yes, Iris is going to comfort the crying baby. Together we celebrate the individual joys in each of our lives, surprised by those joyful events and occurrences that do bring us laughter, that quicken our hearts and our minds and raise our spirits. And we gather for comfort in sorrow, the losses and the sadness that bring our tears, that give one pause and weigh the soul. We gather as a community knowing that we don't live in one place or the other, but in between. The sweetness and the bitterness of life is always with us. We honor our kinship, then, on Sundays such as this by pouring out water that we have gathered from Sonoran skies, from our homes, from travels around the globe. And then we give voice to joy, to sorrow that has been shared with our pastoral care committee. And we drop a joy, a stone, in for each joy, in for each sorrow, because it's then held by our community. Sometimes the communication of our joys and sorrows doesn't always flow the way that we wish. And so I have a sorrow to share from one of our members, Chris Engel, and from my partner, Stephanie Funk-Crary. For several weeks now, they have been partnering Chris's sister, Becky, and Stephanie's longtime friend and an elder. And Becky passed last night after being in hospice for just a few days. It was a wonderful celebration, with family and friends coming and flowers, and Becky's absolutely favorite food, a chocolate sundae with extra whipped cream. And we know that among us there are joys and sorrows that we are not speaking at this time. And so we take more stones for the joys that lift us. And more stones, the sorrows. We do this in our kinship of care. And in this, we are led by our pastoral care committee. Our committee does more than just listen to your joys and your sorrows. They compassionately accompany individuals, writing cards, making visits, being present, listening. And they also lead our congregation, responding to everything that's shared and everything that's held silently among us. They help us celebrate and comfort one another. Thank you. Thank you for your service to our congregation. Next week, and on every third Sunday of every other month following, we will hold our ritual of joy and sorrow, an open mic moment, if you will, when each and every person who wishes to speak, and even those online, can come forward and name what is in their heart. And until then, may we hold one another in a kinship of celebration and comfort, certain of our universal interrelatedness, but also with the intentional care that we may be present, that we may listen, that we may be a community of care. As we choose it, may it be so. in his book, Meditations of the Heart by Beacon Press, our Unitarian Universalist imprint, the Reverend Howard Thurman writes, as a human being, one belongs to life and the whole of life. And that includes all the lives and perhaps also all that has ever lived. In other words, each sees themselves as being a part of a continuing, breathing, living existence. To be a human being, then, is to be essentially alive in a living world. I invite you to a time of meditation. Pause to breathe and to rest and to be. Take a deep breath with me and let it out slowly. And one more, exhaling slowly. And then breathe as your body requires. Whoever, wherever, whenever you are, rest in kinship. From out of the past into this very moment and on into the future, you are kin to the whole of life. This is not a claim to comprehend it, to know it, but to feel the interrelatedness in your body. Universal kinship is you, right here, right now. Takes the shape in your inherited hands and the movements that they make. Hands that create tomorrow. Rest in community. Here alongside you are those who share your values. Though they may hold different beliefs, they live and act in intentional kinship, in celebration and in comfort and in care, and rest in this community. Rest in your dignity, in your wholeness of mind and heart and body and spirit, not to comprehend it, but to feel alive and dynamic within life. And our world may try to distract you. It may try to take from you your wholeness. Within sensational, it may try to steal your dignity, your compassion, the power in your hands to create tomorrow. And when it tries, and it will try, and perhaps even convince you for a time that you're alone and all that there is pain, and that violence is the answer, then breathe. Breathe and feel your kinship. Past kin, future kin, present, real, and imaginary kin, and call them to you. Invite them to play. For play is joy that resists destruction and despair. It brings back hope into the world and beauty and love. So breathe and feel your power. Power of community. Power of kinship. As I have been taught. Amen. Aho. May it be so as we choose it to be.
Boy, there's a whole lot of handheld noise in this microphone. Some mornings it's hard for me to stand up, and there's been a whole lot going on in the last few days. But in the spirit of one of my great sets of heroes, the Zazu, who in Paris and in France, as the Nazis were occupying, threw flowers around, skipped up to Nazi soldiers and invited them to dance-offs. And my favorite war quote of the entire war, when one of the generals said of them, "They're not taking this war very seriously." I offer this bit of silliness. Edwin Morgan was a Scottish poet, born in 1920, educated in Glasgow. He lectured in English literature at Glasgow University for most of his life. He wrote many poems for many occasions on many ideas, but this one, the Loch Ness Monster song, is perhaps one of his best known. In his own words, imaginary creatures need imaginary language, and this poem attempts to convey what an aquatic monster might utter, to convey the gist of what it might be saying as it surfaces, looks around at the contemporary scene, and submerges again. I've attempted to capture some of the accent, but as no known sound recording of the monster exists, it's mostly conjecture. I hope you'll forgive me if I don't get it exactly right. This is Edwin Morgan's The Loch Ness Monster's song. Drob Gumgra Gefroth auf Gumgra Gum Hovlopodok Doplodovok Plovodokot Doplokodosh Splagra Fox Splagrach Gabriel Fox Plofok Skra Kra Ga Fok Gruff 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 Gumble Mumble Bull Blum 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 Blum. By all means, laugh. It's supposed to be funny.
Thank you, Chris. Back in 564, or it might have been 565, the records vary, and then again in 1520, and then again in 1694, and again, and again, and again, and again, 1,154 times to date, the Loch Ness Monster has been sighted in the Great Murky Lake of Scotland. These sightings have brought about a great many entertaining interpretations. Perhaps the most famous of the cryptids, the Loch Ness Monster. Cryptids are creatures whose existence is yet to be proven. And the Loch Ness Monster is one of those, described with a long neck, swimming creature of up to 25 feet long, or up to 45, the sightings vary. The creature is affectionately known as Nessie, and gendered for some reason female. It has been described as having a great rounded body with 4 flippers, like the ancient plesiosaurus, or a long thin body with many flippers, like an eel. Accounts vary. And I know all of this because Nessie was my first beloved monster, my first unsolved mystery, my first plunge into the unknown. Oh, there were others that would follow, the jackalope and the Bigfoots, Bigfoots, and UFOs. But really, there's nothing like your very first monster. Nessie guided me to go deep and to discover the power of kinship. Now, from that first account by the Christian monk Columba, who came to convert the Celtic heathens of the Scottish Highlands, who actually were doing quite fine without the church in Rome, Nessie, like all fantastic beasts imagined by human brains, has always been a guide. From the ancient Celtic and Nordic cultures, Nessie is a kelpie, a water horse, a shape-shifter that's comfortable both on the land and in the water. This makes Nessie a boundary crosser, able to move from one element to another, like many monsters, but unlike human beings. For the last 1,560 years or so, Nessie has moved through land and water, science and imagination, reason and intuition, freely, if not somewhat shyly. In fact, last month, NASA was invited to join in the search for Nessie by using orbital sensors to view the loch. Adrian Shine, the naturalist of the Loch Ness Project, who's worked that particular project for over 50 years, openly disagreed with this approach. He said, and I will skip you giving you my Scottish brogue, Loch Ness may be the most famous loch in the world, but that doesn't mean that it is understood. To understand it And to make sense of the mystery, you must do more than look at the loch. You must discover what you can't see from looking at the surface. Adrian Schein uses examples of DNA drawn from the water collected in the length and depth of the loch to identify what lives in it. And yet, I hear something much more in his words. We have to look below the surface, and we need guides that are comfortable there to help us go deep, to discover what is in the unknown, if that's in the unknown of the world around us, or tomorrow, or in ourselves. Nessie's invitation, at least to me, has been to go deep and to use that kinship, to cross those boundaries and go even deeper into the unknown. Hunted for over 1,000 years, Nessie has always seemed alone and isolated to me. And she's called out to me then as a companion for that part of me that feels different, kind of weird, strange. Nessie offers a connection, a relationship, a kinship. For example, when I first discovered Nessie, I was aware that my surname, Crary, had come from the Scottish clan Macquarie. Despite the genealogical records stating that Peter Macquarie came to the American colonies in the late 1500s and then changed his name, I really didn't feel a strong connection to the past, to my ancestors. It was just a few years ago, however, when my brother took one of those DNA tests to better understand ancestry. Have any of you taken that? 85% Scottish. It was pretty definitive. Now, while I'm 100% culturally American and white and cisgendered and currently able-bodied, this biological connection inspired me to go much more beyond those boxes, to be able to cross those boundaries. So yes, I'm descended from Highland Scots, but as we researched it, it's not a clan that was anywhere near Loch Ness. The Macquaries were island people from the Isles of Ulva and Iona off the western coast. And Peter Macquarie, he left Scotland and migrated because of his politics and his faith. It's likely that he fled for his life, but I really can't be sure. Accounts vary. It could be that actually all of this is not entirely factual at all, but patterns and stories that I've crafted from the bits of science and bits of historical records. And yet, as Nessie is the perfect example, these bits and pieces have helped me to dive below the surface of what is known and helped me discover connection and meaning and kinship. Because I know that I carry my ancestors in the shape of my hand. I know that the people who gave me these hands worked hard to survive and to thrive, and they had convictions that guided their actions. That's what's in my hands today. And it guides my hands in creating tomorrow. Ken Smith, a Scotsman who lived as a hermit along a Scottish loch for 40 years, not Loch Ness, but not very far away, once wrote, "Have you ever had it? The feeling you get when you just know you've found a place where you are meant to be, an ancient sense of peace and security, of meaning, of kinship, of connection." And in a way, the search for the Loch Ness Monster and for any and all cryptids is our very longing to belong, to dive deeper into ourselves and into our kinship, to inspire us to meaning and a purposeful life. It's not going to lead us to certainty. In fact, Unitarian Universalists are not in the business of certainty, but it will lead us to clarity, of better knowing who we are, of better knowing what we share, of being better humans. This gives us the strength and the courage to live into the challenges of today, the challenges of this day with great, great unknowns, uncertainties. And it gives us the strength and the courage to live into the mystery of tomorrow. The Reverend Howard Thurman once again. Whatever may be the tensions and the stresses of this particular day, there is always lurking, close at hand, the trailing beauty of forgotten joy and unremembered peace. We will not find this in the boxes that we live in. We will not find this unless we experience the interrelatedness, interdependence of the kinship that we share, unless we live it intentionally. And so may we play, intentionally bringing joy into this world, play with the cryptids, open to their guidance, their crossing of the boundaries, their deepening of our mysteries, so that we live and act within the kinship within and among us. May it be so as we make it so with our lives. Our final hymn today is a favorite of many, Blue Boat Home. I find it is best if you actually sort of shift back and forth as you sing it, like you're on a boat, say on a lake or a loch. Please rise in body or spirit and join your voices together.
As you leave the sanctuary today and join in fellowship and refreshments, you'll see a wooden bowl and a woven basket. The wooden bowl is to collect your donations to our congregation, and the woven basket is for our monthly justice partner. This month, our partner is You the Vote, as part of the Side with Love campaign. This nationwide campaign is focusing time and energy here in Arizona to ensure reproductive rights. All gifts given will be generously and gratefully accepted. Our e-kids will be collecting new and gently used items for the Humane Society of Southern Arizona. There it is. We will be collecting these items until August 11th, and we'll take these items with us when we go for a tour on August 17th. There are many ways that you can help animals in need. The Humane Society is always in need of cat and dog food, toys, leashes, litter, and a lot of other pet supplies. For a full list, see our newsletter or flyer in the Oasis Room. We will have a box for supplies in the foyer and containers for monetary donations in the Oasis Room. All the pets at the Humane Society thank you for your generous gift. Woof. If you have any questions or would like to join us for the tour, please see Stacy Sosa for details. Next is an announcement about Where Olive Trees Weep. On July 20th at 1 p.m., we will be viewing the documentary Where Olive Trees Weep about the conflict in Israel-Palestine. Samar Adi will introduce the award-winning film, and afterwards, Reverend Matthew will lead a trauma-informed discussion. Please contact Reverend Matthew to RSVP. And Climate Revival. In late September and early October, we will be joining in the Side with Love Climate Revival as a sponsoring congregation. Vince Pawlowski is willing to be a co-leader of activities here at MVUU. We are looking for a co-lead to work with him, so please let him know if you are interested. And I think he's not in here now, but let him know if you're interested. This is Invoking the Beings of 3 Times by Joanna Macy and Molly Brown. Be with us now, all you who have gone before. You are ancestors and teachers. You who walked and loved and faithfully tended this earth. Be present to us now, that we may carry on the legacy you bequeathed us. Silently in our hearts, we say your names and see your faces.
All you with whom we live and work on this endangered planet, be with us now. Fellow humans and siblings of other species, open us to our collective will and wisdom. Silently we say your names and picture your faces.
You who will come after us on this earth, be with us now. It is for your sakes, too, that we work to heal our world. I cannot picture your faces or say your names. You have none yet. But we would feel the reality of your claim on life. It helps us to be faithful in the work that must be done so that there will be for you, as there were for our ancestors, blue sky, fruitful lands, clear water.